Well, I'm back with another trip into a Universal family film. This time it's a British film that had a hand in distributing. Based on the famous Mary Norton books, it's The Borrowers. I think a lot of us know the concept. Tiny people under the floorboards borrow those things we assume went missing. This film adaptation went in its own direction and is a product of the Home Alone era of family filmmaking, but it does enough right to make it worth a watch. For me, The Borrowers is primarily a showcase for special effects. Despite being released 20 years ago, the effects still hold up amazingly. Using a combination of practical effects, inventive production design, some CGI, and clever editing, it's genuinely amazing how they're able to make the actors look believably small. When Arrietty and the other borrowers interact with the actors playing Beans, it's difficult to even spot the seams. The production designers also deserve credit for how they built the sets for the borrowers to walk around in. When Arrietty finds herself in a freezer and eating from an ice cream container, it looks like the actor actually stepped inside of one. There's something amusing about the designers having to build a large Breyers container. Now that's product placement I can get behind. The filmmakers really handled size and proportions well. Story-wise, The Borrowers is fairly standard, but all the actors bring the proper energy to their roles. The film mostly uses the story as an excuse for a whole load of fun set pieces. There's something almost childlike about the world here and the way the young borrowers travel from location to location. John Goodman also delightfully chooses the scenery as the evil developer. Yes, it's the evil developer cliché. However, Goodman is a surprisingly effective slimeball, and the fact he's dealing with tiny people allows him to be a tiny bit different from other villains of this sort. His interactions with Mark Williams as a perky exterminator are genuinely funny, as well as his confrontations with a friendly policeman played by Hugh Laurie. Hey, wait a minute. Haven't I seen you both interacting before? I guess Horace and Jasper found new jobs. Speaking of actors you may recognize, the younger borrower, P. Green, is played by Tom Felton in his first role, long before he played Draco Malfoy and was typecast as a villain in almost everything. Oh, and Jim Broadbent is in this too, because it would not be a British film without at least 3 Harry Potter actors somewhere in there. And Peter, the boy who befriends the borrowers, is played by the voice of Chip from Beauty and the Beast and the younger brother from Jumanji. Yep, the who's who of names in this film is fairly impressive, especially if you grew up with other family films from that period. All in all, The Borrowers is an altogether pleasant ride as it jumps from set piece to set piece. Admittedly, it has a tendency to rush through plot points, especially in the beginning, but I think the filmmakers were just excited to get to the action and get the borrowers started on their journey. In terms of adaptations of Mary Norton's classic story, I prefer the calming serenity of The Secret World of Arrietty. That's an absolutely beautiful film, but I cannot fault this take too much. I also have to admit, I have a soft spot for stories about tiny people living in the forest or under the floorboards. I've always found this concept to be highly appealing, partly because of the imagination that comes from the idea and imagining the world through that point of view. Whether it's Roald Dahl's The Minpins, the Blue Sky film Epic, George Shrinks, and yes, I even watched The Littles when I was very young, I have just always gravitated toward this idea. You can also bet I saw The Borrowers on its original release, though I cannot recall reading the book. Overall, when it comes to the sorts of family films that came in the wake of Home Alone's success, I think The Borrowers is one of the better ones and is held up nicely over the years.